Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Jean Duffy. Jean, I'm so excited to talk with you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk to you, Jennifer.
Yes, I'm so glad to finally be here and be able to actually talk more about your piece. So, one of the first things that I like to ask all writers is what inspired you? What got you down to like sit at a computer or a journal and write the story out? Like, what was your end goal? What was your driving force?
Yeah, so writing this essay actually evolved as part of writing the Soccer Grannies book. This engineer took a first creative writing class and another and graduated to Grub Street, a wonderful Boston writing center. And 4 years later from that first creative writing class, I had my first full draft of the manuscript. And I gave it to a writing colleague and asked her, for suggestions how to improve the manuscript. And one of the main comments that I resonated with was she said, "This reader wants to know more about the narrator. You got to tell us, add more Jean into her, make her a character in the book." And, I understood where she was coming from, but what about me is interesting. The soccer grannies, these South African women were, the stars of the show. But I dug deep, and some of this material is what I added to the book. And then it turned out when I was approaching a potential publisher, a few years later, her vision for the book was different. And she said, "Do you mind to cut out that Jean stuff? Leave just enough Jean to tell the story and add more about the soccer grannies." So snip, snip, to the cutting room floor, lots of pieces fell, and I gathered those up, and this essay was born from that with a little glue.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm glad we get to have this opportunity to get more of Jean in. Um, and I'm excited that you wrote a book about it. That's so great. Sometimes the essays inspire the book. Here it was a reverse. So I'm glad that, now from the book you were able to get this piece and that you were able to share with us today.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Your essay talks a lot about the insecurities that young girls and I think in women in general face, trying to develop their self-confidence and find their place in the world, efforts that I think are only made more difficult by our society, which puts
Mm.
unreasonable standards on us. I don't think I don't know the level of perfection that we can actually reach. It's too much or it's not enough. I think just in general, it's really hard to build that self-confidence. So I'd love to go back a little bit in time to when you were in high school and sort of like revisit like high school Jean. And I'm curious how you felt about yourself then. I mean, you allude to it a little bit in your essay, but what were the day-to-day thinking? What was your overall perception of yourself? And when did that shift? Did it shift after coaching, after the soccer group, or what was the pivotal point where you started to maybe develop a little bit more of that self-confidence?
Yeah, yeah. So high school was a tough time. I kind of have a mixed bag of memories from then, and I think that's kind of a common experience. I've certainly become more comfortable in myself over time, but I don't think there was a specific time when there was a big shift. It's always been areas of my life that were more comfortable, family, friends, the soccer field, and areas that were less comfortable where you kind of do what you have to do and grit your teeth and get through it. And even though I titled the essay Late Bloomer, I think life is like a series of buds and blossoms, and you plant new seeds. And so there's lots of different times when you bloom in different ways. And uh, I like to think of it that way. So no particular event was a real shift, but just some different blossoms
Yeah.
throughout life.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's not a linear path for so many things in life. But I like the idea of like planting seeds and blossoming at different points, almost like a seasonal transitions. When I read the line about you not playing sports in high school, I really resonated. And I think that's something that I sort of kind of look back and I have regrets because I didn't really have that opportunity to build that like camaraderie in sports and like go to all these teams. And people are like, I played baseball and softball. I'm like, I didn't have that. I had other kind of like family circumstances. But, now that I'm like in my mid 30s, I feel like I'm more active than I ever was before. And I kind of wish I had started this earlier. So I'm curious, like when, because it seems like you became more active in organized sports later in life. I don't know if you were already always active, but, maybe doing solo things. But Do you wish that you had started sooner? Do you wish that there were more opportunities created for you to feel more comfortable to join sports in high school? I kind of love to learn a little bit about that.
I'm of an age, before Title IX kicked in, where sports for girls was kind of limited. At my high school, there was basketball, gymnastics, and field hockey, and that was it. And I wasn't a jock. I didn't, hang with that group. I think my parents were not athletic. They were not role models for me. I didn't have older siblings to follow in their footsteps. Um, do I wish I'd started sports earlier? Definitely. It wasn't really till I finished college that I started doing some individual. I had more time on my hands and I started running, biking, swimming, did some triathlons. But it wasn't until I was watching my daughters play soccer in my mid 40s. That was my first team sport. I said, I'm already a runner. I can run and
Yeah.
chase a soccer ball. And I encouraged my daughters to play sports. My husband and I have been active role models for them and probably more influential. They saw their friends playing sports. So, they've gravitated more towards that naturally. And one daughter is a competitive rower now, and the other one does all
Oh,
variety of activities, loves swimming. So, I
yeah.
have to live vicariously through them. And
Yeah. But how awesome to have a role model in you and feel this idea of like there is no age limit. Like you can keep
Mhm.
starting new things and staying active until as long as you want, if your health allows to just keep pushing.
Right.
So I think
Your health keep allowing, I believe. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It seems from your essay that moving so often definitely played a role in your ability to develop self-confidence. And, as somebody that's tried to move twice to two different states, it takes so long to really settle into a new environment. I mean, honestly, I moved to California, and had it not been for these angels of women at my work that became friends, I probably would be in like a mental ward because it's so hard to move somewhere new and to just build roots again. And then let alone, being a teenager and you're like figuring out who you are. So I'm curious if you have any advice for adults supporting kids or teenagers through big moves, or even adults that are planning on making these big moves to different places, like just from your learned experiences, what advice would you give to them?
Sure. So as an adult, I put down roots, deep roots. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but once life kind of became under my control, I worked 25 years at the same company and 30 years in the same house. So I have no experience, moving my kids. They to nothing to offer there. I
Yeah.
think, unfortunately, it's unusual for families to move that off, except for the military. I don't think it's
Mhm.
a healthy thing for all the reasons you were citing. You need community around you. That's important. But yeah, there are plenty of good reasons to up and move to see a different part of the world for a while, be closer to family, explore some passion that only happens. I want to be a mountain climber. I got to live
Mhm.
in Colorado, or, a unique job opportunity, and a change of scenery, change of environment can be a healthy thing. But yes, it takes time to rebuild the community. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the first year anywhere is so hard, and sometimes the second and third. So if you don't get that chance to really stay long enough for that, it's like you have to build again and then make the same small talk and find,
Right.
who are the people you're going to connect with. It's hard. And honestly, I can't even imagine as a teenager because it's already hard figuring out like who you are as a teenager. And it's like, who are your friends? What do you actually want to do? Um, but yeah, that's good advice. And I mean, sometimes you have to do it, you just have to take the plunge and experiment.
Mhm.
Um, growing up, I often felt in classrooms, like if you didn't talk, then, you must have not read the book, or you must not be paying attention, you must not be engaged, and the people who were really loud and extroverted, it's so easy for them to take the space. So I really connected with your like professional anecdote. You allude to that, and then you also made this like brave move of getting a coach. And I don't know if that was something that was required by your company, or if you were like, okay, I need to find this coach to be able to move up or to make these changes. But you tackled all these different challenges, including like singing on a corner. I don't know if you actually did that, but if you did, I'd love to learn more about that and the other kind of like wild and like kind of scary exercises that you had to do. Like, how was that like?
Um, yeah, the opportunity to do the coaching was actually I was selected. I think the company recognized that having more technical women in management would maybe help bring more technical women up the ranks, that kind of thing. But I did treat it as a unique period, and I was honored to be part of the program. And I was really impressed with the coach Vivian right away, and so I was determined to take advantage of it. Yes, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but no, I didn't sing on a street
Uh,
corner, but I did, take on many other challenges, and broke them down step at a time with Vivian there, encouraging me, and each step of the way. I've actually connected with Vivian, the coach, in recent years, and she has invented herself as a poet and published a couple books. So now we're cheering each other on. So that's kind of fun. Yeah.
oh, awesome. That's great. I think of the challenges that you had to do though. I'm curious, like what was the scariest one of the ones that you had to do?
Well, presenting the statistics on the gender to the managers was extremely uncomfortable because I felt like I was pushing for myself, which I wasn't. The facts were there, and they took it very, very well, so it wasn't so bad. So, and the model mugging class, it was called, where you learned techniques of self-defense. They scared the
Mm.
wits out of you, taught you some techniques, and then put you up against this padded guy, and I couldn't believe what came out of me. It was just
Yeah.
like kicking and fighting, and that was an amazing experience.
That seems like a great life skill that all of us women should probably have anyway, beyond like, self-confidence just for our own safety, but I'm sure that felt pretty badass at the end when you were able to tackle him.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the example that you gave, it's like not only were you like putting into practice your public speaking, but then you're also like advocating for other women and trying to make change. Those it's like double whammy of intimidation. But you did it, so kudos to you. That's great. So this is kind of less of a question and more of a reflection, and I'd just like love to know your thoughts because your essay, you mentioned 3 months of self-inflicted torture and hard-earned accomplishments. And that really stood out to me because I've had the opportunity to see this play out in a different way than if I had, already achieved the traditional milestones. But I think there's so much pressure to like get married, have the child, have the job. Then, it's just like this prescribed list of things that women should do. And it's so easy to ignore the other milestones that women accomplish in their lives, like, you know, um, finishing your college degree, writing a book, for me, running half marathons. I mean, these are all pretty significant things as well, but I think that they so often get ignored because they seem more insignificant than these other ones that we've all been told are like the key things to have a successful life. Um, so I'd love to know what you think about that. And if you've had examples or seen through people who have celebrated these other milestones for you, and maybe that's inspired you to see it in a different way. Because now you've gone through these incredible feats of like, you joined soccer later in life, you were writing a book later in life. There's all these other things that you've done in addition to being a mother and a wife and having a career.
Yes, yes. You're right, absolutely right. It's important to recognize and cherish the things that you accomplish in your life that are big. But you're right too that society imposes on us these, expectations, and um, I would say my daughters are my biggest accomplishment. Of course, they get the lion's share of credit for what they've accomplished, but they're both in high tech science fields, and I'm proud of them. But every once in a while, I sit back and, think about other things. Just a week ago, I heard that the Soccer Grannies book was going to receive an award. It's not like a giant prestigious award, but still, there was a message in the email announcing it to me that said, "Congratulations to Jean for writing and living a story that reminds readers that passion and purpose can lead to great accomplishments regardless of age." And it was just like a kind of a wow moment for me. Like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, you did.
So yeah, you just those things happen throughout our life, and we do need to pause and congratulate our buddies and congratulate our family and yeah,
Yeah.
reflect on those.
Yeah, and I mean, to not um forget that even a small note like that could make a difference for somebody, or even remind them. Especially as women, sometimes I think we forget the things we've actually accomplished and done, and we
Yes.
just need these gentle reminders of like, oh yeah, I did do that. I did write that really amazing book. So I'm glad that you're experiencing it and you're getting the praise for these other things that you're doing. So I loved hearing that there were like soccer grannies out in the world. I was like, what? This is amazing. I don't think I had actually heard of that. I'm always so amazed by these women who are like body lifting at 75 or like teaching fitness classes or setting like swimming records. I mean, it's so incredible. Like, okay, yes, there is life beyond 40, beyond 50 and 60. And so you talk about bringing these women to the US and to visit. But beyond being women and playing soccer, there were a lot of like cultural differences, language barriers that you moved past just to make it all happen. It's been some time now since this happened, since they came here, and you mentioned that you're still in touch. So I'm curious, what do those relationships look like now? Have you stayed connected? What has happened in your lives? Like, do you celebrate each other? How up to date are you on each other's lives now?
That's a great question. My introduction to them was a news report I saw with a video, of them playing. And, right away I felt a bond with them. I could tell they were having fun. I knew they were improving their health and gaining self-confidence from learning something new. Of course, these women are of an age living in South Africa where they lived through the almost 50 years of apartheid and the poverty and unemployment that ensued. Many of them have endured physical abuse. The AIDS epidemic hit South Africa very hard. Many of them lost adult children and found themselves raising 8, 10, 12 grandchildren. So, the parallels
Wow.
to my life, kind of vast.
Yeah.
But still they found soccer, and this is bringing them joy um now at this point in their life and a community. So the book includes how we met, but also lots of the historical, societal, and political pressures that impacted their lives, so the readers learn a lot about South Africa. And my favorite parts of the book, I received just before it was going to the publisher some interviews with them where they entrusted me with their life stories. And so I was able to fold those in as narratives. And so, you hear from them what they've endured and how strong and resilient they have been. And it's just really, really inspiring. So staying in touch, what does that look like? Well, last year, and this is beyond the pages of the book because it just happened, they hosted the Grannies International Football Tournament,
I love
first
that.
ever, all women over 50. 16 teams attended from across South Africa, other African countries, Europe, and the US. We from Boston brought 50 women, three teams in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we just had the experience of our life. There was a parade through the town where we marched behind the US flag, and, the streets were lined, people giving us high fives, wanting to take our picture with us. And then we paraded right into the stadium, and the stadium was packed. Okay,
Wow.
packed. And remember, I didn't play a team sport until my mid-40s, so I never played in front of 5 people, let alone, 15,000. It was just unbelievable. And just to
That's awesome.
bring together, these women from around the world with this shared passion was a wonderful thing. And I reflected on how far these soccer grannies have come from being told, you belong at home,
Mm-hmm.
watching the grandchildren, to now hosting this event and being like local celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
And the women who had come to the United States in 2010, I mean, it was wonderful to hug them and be with them again. But many of them are now in their 80s. And
Wow.
while they play regularly still, they were in it sitting in the stands cheering, and they fielded their young 50 and 60-year-olds, to play against us. So they've really paved the way for the next generation, making it easier for them. So I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And they now have inspired 240 teams of grandmothers across South
Oh,
Africa
wow.
and 13 other African countries. So if you think about it, that's, thousands and thousands of healthy, empowered, strong women with this supportive team around them. So I think it's just phenomenal what the founder of the team has accomplished. And, she's now looking towards planning a 2025 tournament. And, between the book and other projects we have going, I'm in very frequent contact with the organizer, WhatsApp messages and calls. And, you know, she sends me photos of what they're doing,
That's
videos.
so amazing.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Um, and I think, and it really speaks to the power of representation. I mean, maybe they didn't have it when they started their league, but now these other women are able to see, like, oh, these women are still continuing again into their 50s, 80s, and there's multiple teams. And, um, when you see somebody else doing something that, it inspires you to say, like, oh, maybe I can do it too. But when you don't have any of that, you're like, oh, that's it. Like, it's something I missed my chance when I was a high school student and I could have played sports. But when you see someone else do it, you're like, oh, I didn't miss my chance. There's still other opportunities.
Right, right. And it doesn't have to be soccer, it can be anything. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great lesson, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And now so many teams. That's so incredible. It will be the Grannies World Tournament and then the World Cup. So I love it. um, so it sounds from your essay and just our conversation, you found community, two really strong communities. It seems like you have your writing group that's been going on for a long time. And then you have this, your soccer league that has sort of grown past the soccer league to like an international group of friends that also play soccer. Um, and and that was really beautiful to me because loneliness and social isolation are a huge issue right now for people. The data shows that when you have strong ties to people in your life, you're able to live healthier and you feel more connected. I think it encourages you to stay active for longer and it improves your health. But if you have a shared activity or an interest or a struggle, I think it's easier to build those connections and start to have those organic conversations. So I'd love to know like what it means for you to have these communities at this stage in your life. And I guess the second part of that question is, what advice would you give to people who are looking to build those communities and build connections and are maybe lacking them right now and don't really know how to get to that point of having one or even if it all goes well, two or three strong communities that can uplift them. So if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've been playing soccer now some 20 years, and yeah, those women are some of my best friends. So yeah, I feel very fortunate to have that community. I think it's good to seek out new passions, take a class in pottery, join a pickleball session, a poetry class, volunteer for an org with a mission that, you resonate with. Try a few things and see what you like and see what clicks, where you're likely to find other people interested in that. And hopefully develop a long-lasting passion, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if you've always had strong communities of people around you, but or if this is the first time, but I guess what kind of difference has it made for you to have these people to support you?
Yeah, I mean, certainly moving as a kid, it was only my family was my only community. I know my mother, wherever we moved, she would join the church and start teaching Sunday school. So that was kind of how she, I think, coped with all the moving. But um, yeah, I have this writing group, which is a very strong part right now. The connection with the South African women is a strong community that I love, and the soccer, some some other activities, hiking and all. But yeah, no, it's important. It's important to find for our happiness.
Yeah, definitely. Um, awesome. I'm curious if you had, one piece of advice or maybe two, whatever you'd like, um, for women, or even or if you could tell your younger self, what would it be? What advice would you give that person?
Yeah, so I guess I circle back to my lessons with Vivian, the coach, to keep trying something new, move out of your comfort zone, and tell people about it. Don't tell people what you're enjoying, and keep at it until you find something you love.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful.
I hope listeners will check out the Soccer Grannies book. I'm donating all my book proceeds to the women in South Africa. So you don't have to like soccer. It's great for any women who want to be inspired as they're hitting milestone ages, that it's never too late to try something new.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that you're doing it. What a great way to support their efforts. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Jean. It's been so lovely to hear your essay and then chat with you a little bit more about your experience from high school up until now. I think it's going to be very inspiring to other people to hear that you're still playing soccer, you're continuing to stay healthy, but also, I think your essay just speaks to like age is just a number, and you can create all the opportunities that you want for yourself if you want. So I think it's really beautiful that others are able to see that reflected in the story.
Well, I appreciate your sharing it.
Yeah, of course.